The question for today is very simple. Do you think the Marvel Cinematic Universe has peaked? Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all things major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much more. I'm your host Chris, and while I was doing some research for today's video, I came across a tweet by IGN. Do you think the Marvel Cinematic Universe has peaked? And it was in the form of a poll. The time I'm reading this, it had 44,000 responses, and 77% of you guys said yes, leaving only 23% with a no. And I kept coming back to it. I kept thinking about it in my head. I wasn't really surprised by the response, but I was narrowing into my mind, is it true? And I do want to dive into this, and I would like to have a good discussion about it, so feel free to drop down into the comment section and let me know what you think, but wait until after the end of the video has approached, because I've got a few points I'd like to make. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the other major movie and television news updates happening daily here on the channel. You can also follow me on my other socials, Instagram at Chris M. Rosser and Twitter at TheCultureChris. Links to both of those are in the description down below. So, as I mentioned, I was not surprised to see 77% of people said that, yeah, the MCU's peaked. It's over. We're never going to get anything better than the Infinity Saga, than Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, than Iron Man snapping and Captain America going back in time to live out his happily ever after. That's it. It's over. I'm not surprised by that because people, especially nowadays, big, huge fans of Star Wars, the MCU, DC, Harry Potter, we're very cynical, aggressive, and negative people, and it's something that on the channel I've often spoken about as an attribute I don't really like as a fan. I hate seeing people constantly nitpicking or tearing down projects and things that were created, and that's not to say that there aren't issues with some projects or the new Star Wars trilogy, different things like that. But there is a certain level of toxicity that does exist within fan bases that is very hard to ignore, and I also find not very fun. It's actually for this very reason I very infrequently talk about Star Wars on the channel, because usually it's just a lot of people complaining or critiquing or attacking each other in the comment section, and I don't get any joy out of that, even though I absolutely love Star Wars. And I do think over the last several years, pretty much since the end of Avengers Endgame, we've kind of started to see a lot of that same toxicity within the MCU. And that's what's going to bring me to today's conversation. Are the 77% correct? Are we truly not going to be getting anything better from the MCU? Well, think about where we are now. We're in phase 2 of 3 for the multiverse saga. Phase 5 overall. And I will say we're officially in phase 5. We're closer to the releasing of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I'm very excited for. I think there are a lot of huge prospects for this pushing the plot of the multiverse saga forward. And then, of course, the remaining parts of the Phase 5 lineup in a very impressive standing form of plot pushing and storytelling. Loki Season 2 promises to be absolutely massive for that. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 not only has a huge opportunity to push the cosmic side of the MCU, but also has the opportunity to be an amazing end of the trilogy for the Guardians of the Galaxy, as well as an individual movie that could have and pose a lot of success. You also have new teams that are going to be introduced, like the Thunderbolts, Echo and her entire story, which is going to be the street side of the MCU, a new Captain America 4, which is going to be the first story for Sam Wilson outside of the introduction of him becoming Captain America during Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then a few other awesome projects that I think we have every reason to be excited for individually as well as on a whole. So, when it's all said and done, several years from now, Phase 5 is over, Phase 6 is over, the Fantastic Four of the MCU, we have some mutants in the MCU, whether they're from the Fox universe or their original mutants. However Marvel decides to move forward with that plan, we're into Phase 6. We're nearing the end of Phase 6, and it's about to be Secret Wars. It's about to be the Kang Dynasty. The Avengers are starting to assemble again for the big, huge fight that's to come. Do we truly believe that this won't be on par or even more exciting and bigger than what we saw in Endgame? We've heard the rumors. We know what's to come once we finally get to Secret Wars. and to Kang Dynasty with the cameos and the crossing storylines and the continued developed storylines, the Fantastic Four taking over an important role in the MCU, mutants becoming prevalent and probably a centerpiece of the next phase to come, and many other cool aspects congealing themselves into one cinematic moment, and that would be Avengers Secret Wars. Is that not something you're interested in? If you were of the 77%. And I do hope you're letting me know politely and kindly in the comment section down below if you don't believe that that's a possibility. Granted, I appreciate where the concern and potential complaints or fear are coming from with Phase 4, as it was way more boring than Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War and some of the other projects that we had received and the projects that we've seen. I completely understand that, but they don't have any reason to be as good as Endgame or Infinity War. We need to take a little more time to compare them to other projects, other sequels, other stories that we got earlier on in the phases of the MCU, because that's where we're at right now. So if we are truly to say this is the end, the MCU will never accomplish anything as big as Endgame, well, very well. But I don't believe that that's the case myself. And I'm not so worried, nor am I super fanboying about what content I'm going to have on the YouTube channel. There's always something exciting to talk about. And I am a fan of many, many different things as well. And at the end of the day, I'll talk about what I like. But I am curious about the mental status of fans of the MCU. Are you all checked out? Is it truly over? Because the reality of it is, the projects will be as good as the fans allow them to be. If everybody's excited and has a great time, well then yeah, the projects will continue to prosper and the future of the MCU will be bigger and brighter than ever. But if we start to consistently put on polls that 77% of us believe the MCU's peaked, well, maybe we will be right as well. It's kind of like, as it honestly always has been, the fans writing the history of the franchise. So I hope we can take a moment to ponder as we are entering Phase 5. It's early 2023, and no, this isn't the end of the world. We're talking about a cinematic universe. We're talking about made-believe, not real, fake things. But as somebody who talks about it every day, as somebody who converses with fans, who has met people who've had their lives altered by characters in a comic book, I do think it's certainly interesting and warranted a conversation where I want people to let me know what they think. Is 77% a group of haters on Twitter? Or do all of you also think that that's it? The MCU will no longer produce content like we saw in previous phases of the MCU. Let me know your thoughts, please, in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our other major movie and television news updates happening daily here on the channel. I'll see you guys on the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.